podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello, have you been enraged by what you've read in either the thumbnail or the title? Are you furiously typing a comment before you've even watched a single second of the podcast? Well, stick around because I absolutely guarantee that all four of us on this panel right here are definitely going to say something highly cancelable within the next hour and a bit. This is the Nations Championship Rewind. Let's start the show. Good evening, everybody. I am joined by the usual host of frauds, chances, and hangers-on, which is Irish Adam, Scottish Ethan, and South African Mohammed. Good evening, gents.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I, for the sake of this podcast, am Samoan Hugh, formerly Welsh Hugh, but I've decided I like being Samoan Hugh better. Like I said, I wasn't kidding. Each of us, at some point during this podcast, are going to be challenged, tasked with giving our most cancelable take on our own nation. It will be friendly fire. It's blue on blue. Unless
the comments already know, like just friendly fire every
unless
week.
you wear a colour other than blue. But of course, for Adam's point of view, it's always blue on blue because he hates Leinster.
Well, no comment. I don't know, take a political answer there.
Anyway, Mohammed rocked us all before we started recording with the news that it's actually hotter in Europe than it is in Africa right now.
Yeah. You guys are all chilling. It's weird if you watch these podcasts, Bit of an Animal and all the other podcasts, and this podcast in particular, you'll notice that people's dress code sort of changes because there's a bunch of podcasts for like 3 months ago where I was wearing a tank top. I was sitting right here, but I was wearing a tank top, or muscle top or whatever people call it. But now I'm wearing a hoodie with a black t-shirt underneath on purpose just to retain. I was wearing a buff earlier, but you gotta show the neck on YouTube.
I have a story about one of those tops that I shall regale quickly. So when I was at Wales versus Barbarians or Barbarians versus Wales earlier, there was a guy sat not far in front of me with a plum tree kind of basketball top, like one of those tops. And I was like, oh, he must be a Tane Plumtree super fan. And then I realized he looked exactly like Tane Plumtree, except slightly smaller. And then it turned out it was his brother. But then the twist was that his brother is a professional basketball player in New Zealand.
Wow.
I didn't know.
The Plumtree basketball top that he was wearing was his own stash. He was wearing his own merch.
Are you allowed to wear? You're allowed to wear your own kit in public? I'm not sure.
That's a pretty baller move, to be fair. I do rate that.
So John Plumtree has another kid, and he plays professional basketball in New Zealand, mate.
That appears to be the case, yes.
Wow.
Wow. We learn something new every day. I thought I knew John Plumtree. He coached us twice and he played for the Sharks. And now I'm just learning things. I love this podcast.
Incredible scenes. Right. I feel like that is a natural segue for us to talk about Ireland versus New Zealand and talk about how they've all disappointed us yet again. Adam, it's not the Ireland question this week. The Ireland question being you won, so what you're moaning about? Because you didn't win. You really didn't win. And I have to say that I thought that the first half in particular was really rather poor.
Yeah, I think it was, it's one of those where I was watching the game and I was looking at it, with the idea of like Eden Park is a very hard place to go. I think it was France in 1982 that was the last team that won there. And I went in going, and from the Interpro show going like, oh yeah, we're underdogs. We love being underdogs, but that's also like completely ignoring how good this New Zealand team was. The first half was extremely cagey. The first 10 minutes, I felt like we had a lot more chances than they did. And I thought that, to be honest with you, I thought that our attack, I think I messaged my dad in the first 10 minutes saying, our attack looks pretty good. Like our attack looks pretty free flowing. I thought that our passes were going to hand. It was just the case of finishing and little mistakes along the way that really got us in the first 10 minutes. And then when New Zealand scored their first try, I just sort of felt that sort of achy feeling that you get when you play against New Zealand of like, oh, they're in this now. They're there to play a game, and they just started to absolutely roll over us. I think the Conan try. The Conan try in the 32nd minute, I think Conan is probably one of our, well, he was the veteran of that team.
With
He
his
was our,
World War One mustache.
oh yeah, which he's had consistently for like, well, ever since he was in the academy. I don't remember a time where he hasn't had it. But yeah, it was one of those where we it was really interesting. I thought New Zealand were at the very first bit. I think it was Lomax came off in the 3rd minute, and I
Yeah.
thought I sort of sat up a bit and went, okay, yeah, this could be a little bit of a leveler here. Having its tight head prop come on, and having it, well, one from the 4th minute onwards, and it seemed like there was no way that he was going to come back on the pitch. I was like, right, okay, this is where we can really go at it here. And then I think it was when Tommy O'Brien came off, Frawley came on, and then within what 3 minutes, Frawley came off and Aki came on. And I was like, we've got a blood sub for a blood sub here. Like it was a HIA for a blood sub, and I was just like, Pontiacki's playing on the wing. No, we had Gary Wingrose for a bit as well. But the game was really frustrating, to a point where there was a lot of missed opportunities. I felt like in that first half, as you said, here was a pretty poor first half from us, but I feel like we could have really had a foothold in the game in the first 10 minutes. As soon as Tuipulotu scored, I just thought, right, this is when they can run away with it. I think Sevilla scored in the next one, and I was just like, right, okay, this is when New Zealand can start taking over. I thought Ruben Love played a really good game against us. I thought that there was a lot of, I think for Ireland's sake, I thought that we were very slow again. This is the thing that I've said. This is not going to be
Yeah.
my cancelable take, but I think in general, if we want to compete against the top four teams, we need to be a lot quicker. We need to be a lot quicker. We don't like if we were to have a pack that bullies teams off the ball, and the way that we play, like we really should have a pack that should bully the team players like teams off the ball, but we don't.
Mm.
It's a very aging Ireland team. Tag Furlong did relatively little. He just sort of passed the ball a lot. He did loopy passes a lot, which was very interesting. I thought Joe McCarthy, to point out a positive, I thought Joe McCarthy was pretty good. I
I
thought Joe
agree.
McCarthy was excellent. He really fought in hard for the team. Not to say that no other player didn't. I thought that Gibson Park had a pretty slow game, pretty quiet game from his standards. I thought New Zealand did very well to sort of subsidize him really. I thought Prendergast had his moments in attack, but also there were some small inconsistencies there as well. There was that little skip pass in the second half that he did, and it just went completely out when we had a player outside him. But I think that comes with experience. I really do. Um, we didn't utilize our wings enough. I don't think Jimmy O'Brien or Balogun was used enough, and I think that was a consistent thing that I've seen throughout this nation's championship. We've got very talented wingers and back three players that haven't been utilized enough in terms of attack. In the Six Nations, and when I think back to the last time when Mac Hansen played, think of how many times he came off his wing to show up in the middle.
Oh
That
God,
has
is he still alive?
yeah, I think he was at a concert a couple of weeks ago. I think he was at Metallica in the Aviva.
Oh, that's right.
So he's still around. But yeah, it was one of those that I thought, we look very slow, we look very tired. Um,
There was one moment where you got a transition off turnover ball, and it went wide to Gary Ringrose,
yeah,
and he just he just ran forward a few steps and collided with an All Blacks player. And I
yeah,
think it was Gordon Darcy on co-coms who had some iffy moments in that job.
yeah,
He just went mad. He was just like,
yeah,
as an international, highly experienced starting outside centre, you need to be a lot better in those situations.
yeah.
And
It,
at the moment, I couldn't help but think, Adam, what would Jude Postlethwaite have done in that situation?
Well, I think it would be interesting to see the likes of Jude Postlewaite have a go. I think for all I speak about in terms of rotation, in terms of trying players out, we must remember that some of these rotations and trying players out have been due to injury. Like last week against Japan, that was a very rotated team, but also with a hint of injury. A little hint of like, these players could have been playing, but they're not because they're injured. Zach Ward is one player that I'm going to point out very quick. Didn't get a
Definitely.
chance.
Yeah.
Didn't
Why
get a
he's not
chance.
had a chance is big question for me. Big
It's
question.
it's really interesting and really quite annoying in the way. You know, I think I'm going to point out a couple of more players I think that should have been done, but another positive I thought was that Sean Jansen I thought came on really well as well. I thought
Mhm.
Sean Jansen played like I thought there is some positives to my negatives, as the comments would rightly not say. But Timony and Sean Jansen coming on was pretty good. I thought Clarkson's had a solid Nations Championship. I think it's time to start transitioning away from Furlong and moving on to Clarkson. I think that that's a way to go. I would, you know, it was the Will Jordan try that was diabolical. Should not have happened. It
It
was
was
remin
pretty bad.
it was reminiscent of the one that Wales scored against Fiji. In terms of just like that shouldn't happen on a professional rugby pitch,
I
and
think it's
that's
this one. I think I have the video clip here. Now, last week I joked about getting a copyright strike, and then we actually did. So I'm going to try not to do it here, but I think it's this one.
yeah, it is this one.
Yeah, it's this one. What's
It there was a
what?
lot of there was a lot of moments in this Nations Championship where I don't think that the communication's been good enough.
Well,
Um,
let's try and figure out what we got here. So we've got Jameson gives a park, passes it to Big Stu.
Stu doesn't look.
Stu
He
doesn't
just
look.
he
So,
swings the pass out, expecting
so who,
O'Brien to
but
be there.
who has
I
called this exactly? Because you've got Keenan is the one who
I
was
think
coming
it's
around.
it'd be Prendergast behind him.
But
I
Prendergast
think
doesn't really look like he wants the ball here
no,
for
it's
me.
almost like a spot. It's a spot dummy run, but I feel like one of them must have overran it just a little bit. I think O'Brien should have came out a little bit wider
No, I don't
here.
think I'm going to defend Sam Prendergast here. I don't think he has called for that because
Oh right,
nothing
okay.
about look at his body language. He's
Actually,
not
no, he doesn't really
expecting the ball.
know. No,
He's
he
not
doesn't really
expecting the
know.
ball.
No. And also as well that what McCluskey did was he passed it in the middle. Like it was really weird. That was Ringrose actually. I just noticed that O'Brien was standing on the wing there. No, it was Keenan. It was Keenan. Goodness, I
Yeah.
had a shocker there. But what I noticed about this Ireland squad, especially in this nation's championship, I don't think their communication's all there. We threw our first four lineouts and we didn't have a jumper involved. We passed it to Gibson Park, first one. We threw it over the top to tag Burn for the second one. We threw it over the top again for the next one, and then we just chucked it to
Ireland's
jump.
lineout has been on fraud watch for several years at this point.
But the thing was, we used to have a really good lineout option before the 2023 World Cup. That was our biggest try scorer. That was our mauls. That was when we set up on mauls. Like there's something that's happened in I don't know. It was just for this Ireland team to go out and I think I know that it's daft to say, but a 78-minute try scored by Leonard Brown in the year 2026. It was just a bit of like okay, yeah, fair enough. The All Blacks are
Yeah.
still pretty good, but we made them look beatable at one stage. The Andy Farrell made them look beatable in New Zealand. Like there has been some regression. There has been points of, we're not, and we didn't even come away with a bonus point in this nation's championship. We could have cut away with two bonus points, but we just sort of locked down and shut off by the end of it.
Mm.
It was really frustrating.
On the subject of the lineout, that brings me on to a point that someone raised to me earlier. Is that I believe the lineout is coached by Paul O'Connell.
Yep.
And was this Paul O'Connell's first job as a coach, coaching Ireland's lineout?
Arguably not. He would have helped coach around Toulon when he retired. When he signed for Toulon and then got injured, I think the murmurings were that he was helping out with coaching because he never played for Toulon in the end. And then he went straight from there into this Ireland setup. So what I'd say is his first official job in terms of that.
Because I think there is a question that maybe people do talk about this more in Ireland, and I haven't seen it because I'm not in Ireland. But I do think there's a question mark over the assistant coaches with the Islands now because they're
Oh
either
yeah,
they're
yeah,
either been around for years or they're players who have been promoted straight from retiring into the coaching setup. And I just
yeah.
think that that's got to be a lot of the same messages over and over and over again. Who's bringing new ideas into this island setup environment these days?
Yeah, I do think the likes of it's time to start looking at the likes of, you know, when you look at that Ireland setup, you've got Andrew Goodman, you've got Simon Easterby, Paul O'Connell, Jonathan Sexton, John Fogarty. And it's really John Fogarty is also another one that he he looks and means well, and his brother coaches the forward pack for the Ireland ladies team. Fun fact.
Hmm.
Well, he did at some point, but it's one of those where Paul O'Connell, the lineout sort of has regressed. It's completely regressed.
Is it one of those things
Scrum,
you can't sack Paul O'Connell? Is that what it is?
no, but also as well, there's it's that, and also you've got Jonathan Sexton. There's a backs and kicking coach. I think our kicking out of hand's gotten better, but what part of our backs has gotten better since the Six Nations? You know, Stuart McCluskey's relatively two-dimensional in that Ireland setup all of a sudden. We've got a pretty static center partnership. The wings aren't coming out the way that we want to. It's really interesting as well because I feel like when Jonathan Sexton was playing for Ireland, we had a lot of crossfield kicking options, and that just doesn't happen anymore. Especially in terms of that's how strong Ireland were at crossfield kicks because the natural sort of Gaelic influence.
Mm.
The players when they did play Gaelic, like I'm thinking of the likes of Robbie Henshaw and things like that when they started out, you know, those are really transferable skills. But we're not. I don't feel like we're playing towards our strengths of our set piece, and I feel like our set piece has really digressed, and I feel like that's why we struggle now. There's a lot of it's that, and there's a lot of communication errors that I feel that it could easily be sorted out in a training session, but I don't see that getting changed at all. This New Zealand performance, in my opinion, I was expecting it to come. I was expecting this to come ages ago. To put it back to the last time we played in Eden Park, it was the same scoreline, give or take a point or two. The last time we
Mm.
played in Eden Park, then we went on to win in New Zealand twice more after that. Do I think if we were to play in New Zealand twice more next week and the week after, would we have the same feeling? No. It's because we have this group of core players that are aging and they look very tired and we're playing them till their death. Like Guy Ringrose is a direct example of we're playing these guys really, really hard week in, week out, and he's getting tired and we need like these changes. And if you want me to get onto my hot take, it,
Go on.
if you want me to get onto my hot take, I we had this discussion on the Interpro Show group chat of I don't think I think we're probably in reality about sixth in the world right now. I'd say that we would struggle. So these are the teams that would probably beat us. But New Zealand, France, South Africa, yeah, we would struggle against. Would struggle against Argentina. And we struggled against Japan. We'd probably struggle against Australia next year in the World Cup. But we're probably sixth in the world, and we'd probably give ourselves more dividends and more. We are very good, but we're not replicating that. If we, my opinions come across as that we want to be top four in the world, and I feel like we're not, and that's where I feel like that's our tripping over point. We're so focused on world rankings, and I know that Andy Farrell's there to do jobs. I know he's there to get the win rate up, but part of me is sort of a bit a, a bit concerned about the 2031 contract. That is a
Yes.
that
Yeah.
is that is a long time for me to think, are we going to progress between now and next year? We still have a lot of players to come back. Ryan Bird was injured throughout this. He's quite a good player. Andrew Porter is a key player in this Ireland setup as well. But we need to find one, a 10, two, we need to actually, a little bit of a clear out. But if we want to be the best team in the world, look at the teams that progressed. New Zealand has started Ruben Love. What was it? It was his third start for New Zealand. He's
Hmm.
keeping Buren Barrett out of a New Zealand spot. He's only had his third game. Look at how well he played. Look at that French team that played New Zealand a couple of weeks ago. They didn't struggle as much as we did, and that team had no Toulouse players and no Montpellier players. There is a way to develop and change a team without your best players. And that's what I want from this Ireland team. This is like we could talk about player pools and all that, but we've got four provinces producing really good players. And I'm not saying this is a Leinster issue. I'm not saying this is a Munster, Connacht, or Ulster issue. I think this is a national issue of we need to sort it out and we need to start trying new things to progress because I don't see any way that we're progressing between this time and next year.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Anybody who hasn't already left a comment will surely be doing so now. Other guys, Ethan, what did you make of this game?
I mean, I didn't see it because my alarm, unfortunately, did not set for 9 o'clock.
That's,
I was going to wake
not
up
that early, Ethan. You know, that's a reasonable time for an adult to be awake.
I stayed up way too late on Friday night and I was like, ah, shit, I'm going to miss the first half, but I'm going to set my alarm nice and early for the second half. But annoyingly, my phone didn't set it because, it's obviously like touchscreen and it didn't register my fingerprint. I was like, ah, shit.
You missed a cracker of a hacker. I'll tell you that.
So it was Ethan. Oh, sorry.
No, go on, Adam.
So Ethan, you're trying to tell us that you were out in the pub and you burned your fingerprints off. So in an effort to miss this game.
No, it was a Disney Plus way too late at night.
Fair dues. Yeah, fair enough.
But I did think that it was a good when I saw the hacker because I've had the good fortune to talk to some more coaches lately, professional coaches, and they all talk about emotion a lot more than you'd think. You'd think that like top level coaches are all about like the science of it all, but actually a lot of them are all about the emotion. And so I've started paying more attention to the emotion of the hacker and whether they're just going, yeah, all right, or whether they're like, I'm gonna kill you. And it was an I'm gonna kill you hacker from the All Blacks in this game. I thought, Mohammed, what was your thoughts on it?
Super interesting game. I did think New Zealand would win. I thought Ireland would put more of a fight. It's interesting because New Zealand got a new coaching staff, and there's a lot of articles and podcasts coming out of people saying they've spoken to some of the coaching staff or their interpretation of what they've done differently. And much of that is like their attitude is now just go for it. So I think this change of coaching staff will make New Zealand incredibly dangerous from now until the World Cup. They were already going to be dangerous under the World Cup under the previous coaching staff, considering the World Cup is in their backyard in Australia, which is just Western New Zealand. And then from the island perspective, I wouldn't necessarily panic too much. Yes, they are missing a few key players. Like I'm surprised Adam said that they needed 10, but because they do have Crowley, and I always rated Crowley. I think he's the most complete 10 that they have. And I think like Mac Hansen will make an impact. I just hope that the coaching staff of Ireland, like I concur completely. I'm glad we mentioned earlier about the fact that Ireland's assistant coaching staff seems a bit stale. I always harp back to the time when Scott Razor Robertson, whatever you might think of him, his tenure as a New Zealand coach, when he was at the Crusaders, and he actually had won one or two Super Rugby titles, and then he brought Ronan O'Gara in, and people were saying like, why are you bringing Ronan O'Gara in? We're still winning, and he was like, no, we need to freshen things up. We need new voices, new accents, new ideas. We can't become stale and that type of thing. And then that's why I very encouraged by the coaching staff in the Springboks setup. So there's that aspect. But is the island not just the coaching, not just the assistant coaching freshen up, that type of thing? Because you can ask people to leave and say, look, it's not about you personally. It's just about we need new ideas. And then the other thing is the playing staff. There is talent in Ireland. And I see this almost mirroring Jake White's tenure as Springbok coach when he went on to win the World Cup. When Jake White came in, we were winning. And he had this idea of these players and this thing, and we're going from now until 4 years from now, we're going Mari Subed, David Barry, center pairing. And people were like, can't you like slowly bring in Jean de Villiers and Jacques Fourie? And he was like, no, those guys are wings. And then there was an injury crisis and he was forced to pick those players. So in some instances, Jake White was almost going into a World Cup trying to go into a World Cup with a stale team when he was forced through circumstance to like refreshen things up. Like, I'm not even entirely sure we would have. Maybe that's my hot take. It's a more like historical hot take that I don't sure we would have won the World Cup in 2007 if John de Villiers had not gotten injured and young 20-year-old Francois Steyn hadn't been asked to play inside center because John de Villiers, yes, he's a good player and he's thought of like as a sort of like a Rolls Royce Andre Hubert type player, but I'm not that convinced that he's going to go on his podcast and complain about this now. Um, so there's that aspect as well. Ireland need to do, you might think, oh, Ireland don't have time between now and a World Cup in Australia to freshen up their team. They can. They have the talent. Does the coaching staff have the will to try and do it? And then the coaching staff's going to say, well, there are no more like test friendlies anymore because we go from a Six Nations to a Champions Cup June round to a Champions Cup November round. So when are we supposed to rotate? Have the balls to rotate, like do something because like things are looking stale. Legitimately, I think Ireland peaked when I didn't think they'd win that series against New Zealand. Remember, I watched them lose the first game, and then I told the people I was with, like, I don't think they're going to win the next two. I don't think they can win the next 2-2. I think New Zealand are probably going to win the series 2-1, and then Ireland surprised us all. So I was like, oh wow, Ireland going to be legit next World Cup. Come the World Cup, they fell short again. I was like, cool, you at least have a semblance of a team that you could build for till the next World Cup. And then Andy Farrell was like, "Screw that! I'm the Lions coach. I'm just gonna like put that aside, and we'll build Ireland next time." It's not working out. So Ireland, like Hattie said in the bit of an animal preview show for the South Africa versus Springbok versus Camry, Springbok versus Wales game, she was saying like Ireland got no chance. They're stale. They've peaked. They're going this way now. I concur with her in a sense that if they don't make changes, that's exactly what's going to happen. So I don't know. Andy Farrell's got a contract from now until 2035. So, he's cashing them checks. Yeah.
Yes, I agree with all of that. I do have more points to make about the hacker, if that's okay with everybody. Like, I really like Ardy Surveyor's energy that he brings in this bit coming up when I said he actually wants to kill you. I really get that sense from him. And my general question that I have about the hacker anyway is, when do people learn that? When do New Zealanders learn the hacker? Do they like learn it in school? And when do the All Blacks practice the hacker? Because the hacker these days changes quite a lot, like game to game. So do they have like a dance studio with like mirrors all on one wall where they all go and practice the hacker?
Oh yeah, that would be quite good. Didn't they do it in the Principality once, where it was the Millennium Stadium, when they did it in the changing rooms. They
Yeah.
didn't come out, yeah.
No,
But
Wales said they couldn't do it, and then they did it in the changing room, and then they absolutely destroyed us.
which is a pretty baller
Way
move, to
to
be fair.
piss them off.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, way to piss them off before they do their war dance against you. That would piss them even more off.
Although to be fair, before I said anything now, I really should have started by saying Vamos España, because we're recording this at 23 minutes to 10 South African time. And yeah, good luck to Spain in the World Cup final.
Yes, it's 0-0. Right.
Oh.
Okay. So if you know when and how the All Blacks rehearse the hacker, let us know in the comments below, and somebody at some point will surely read it. Okay. Right. Let's now talk about the next game. Let's do a fun one. Let's do Scotland versus Fiji, or Fiji versus Scotland. Sorry, I should say Fiji versus Scotland. Oh, for God's sake, this bloody Nations Cup website never plays ball. It's never the game that you think you've clicked on.
It's never right either. They always switch results around when you see the previous head-to-heads.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
And it broke today. I was doing a load of stats and it broke. Anyway, Ethan, Scotland won.
Yep.
They nailed Fiji in the second half, and it was a bonus point win away from home. So everything was good.
Yeah, totally. Nothing to brush over or nothing to ponder upon in the first half. It was all lovely. Nah, it was, as you can tell, I'm wearing my away kit to reflect the away nature of this fixture. I unfortunately couldn't go because I wanted to save some money, because it's the first time in a while I didn't have to travel to Edinburgh, and those Edinburgh train tickets can get quite pricey. But my lovely co-hosts Dan and Jordan did go, and we do
Mhm.
talk about more of this match on the Rugby Realm, which should be up soon. But yeah, I mean, fair play to Fiji. I thought this was a Fiji side that was much better
They
than they
appeared
were
to be
against England and
concentrating.
Wales. Yep, and their line out the defense was superb. I thought, or the Mull defense, I should say, was quite. You could clearly see that was something they've worked on. I heard something in the lead up. It was something like Caleb. Was it Caleb Muntz had his visa sorted out or something, and that's why it was one of the players.
Yeah, he missed the first game against Wales because there was an issue with his passport, I think, or some like visa or something. Apparently, it's quite commonly happens to Fijians.
Yeah, yeah. Because I was saying that to my cousin. That I don't know if that was just because you think for like professional sport, it'd be so easy to get a visa or something, all sorted to travel.
Yeah,
But
they tend to that admin isn't necessarily Fiji's greatest strength, I'm
no,
told.
that's why I said to my cousin is like the Fijian union's a bit shit, unfortunately.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
our like the South African Football Union.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's much to be improved. But no, for Scotland, the first half, it was really weird because Scotland had so many opportunities in the first half that I think I sent this to the chat that before halftime, Scotland had 8 entries into the 22, which was the same amount that South Africa had against us during the whole game after 80 minutes. But
Good
Scotland
stat.
only scored once for those entries, whereas Fiji, I think they scored
3 from 3, I think it was.
yeah, which I mean, in fairness, I think the second Fiji try was very impressive from a Fiji point of view, but was completely preventable from a Scotland perspective. That I appreciate the ambition that I think Burke kicked it to oh no, it was Darcy kicked it for Duhan to chase, and then
Mhm.
Fiji got it. And Duhan really should have tackled there, but I'm not putting all my blame on Duhan, that there was no one there to back him up
It's
on
too
that
easy
wing.
to blame Duhan
Yeah,
these days, and by that I mean it's extremely easy to blame Duhan.
yeah. But I mean, I thought he had probably one of his better games in a while. That he was a bit quiet earlier on, but you could see him actually working for the ball more. That according to Jordan, he was like the second most carries in that game, which is nuts because when I was watching it, it didn't feel like it.
Mm.
Yeah, you can see Josh Bayless trying to outpace him, but he
Yeah,
didn't.
he's quick though.
He is, yeah.
I'll
And
tell you who played well. Joshua Tuisova. He he was very much like a right. I barely touched the ball against England, so I'm going to take all of that angst out now on Darcy Graham.
no, I remember there was one pass from George Horn that he offloaded it to Darcy Graham purely so he didn't get absolutely flattened. And you could see Darcy's look on his face when he got absolutely demolished. He was like, oh, fuck's sake. Um, but I'm trying to think for an experimental Scotland side, because we had Gregor Brown at 8,
Hmm.
Ollie Smith at 13, first time, I believe, for a Scotland game. And then the Tom Jordan experiment at 15 continues. And I felt Gregor Brown at 8 was okay. I don't know if this is a life after Jack Dempsey sort of thing, that or for Scotland to play with a 5-3 split in the future. That if you've got
Hmm.
him as a utility forward. But no, I think Scotland's back line was the wrong way round. That's kind of like, when you try to do a jigsaw puzzle and you've got the jigsaw puzzle the completely wrong way round. And you're like, oh, why is it not clicking? As
Hmm.
Tom Jordan's not a fullback. We have spoken about this before during the Six Nations. He is not a fullback. He is a very talented player. I do love TJ, but he is not a fullback. Ollie Smith is a fullback. And Ollie Smith is okay at centre, but really they should have swapped round. And I think it wasn't the best game for Fergus Burke for him to try and claim the Finn Russell successor spot.
I didn't think that he played well. I thought that
No.
it was his decision making was an issue.
Hmm. And I don't know, because I did make this point in Rugby Realm that I don't know if it's because of the back line being the wrong way round that he didn't have, the ball distribution that would have been as good if he had the centres
Hmm.
with him. Because I did say that in the Argentina game when he was on, he looked perfectly fine. But then if you have Sione, Tuipulotu, and Rory Hutchison as your centres, they could make anyone look really good.
Mm.
So it's that kind of question of did that cover up the cracks? I'm not sure. I think he needs more Scotland games for it to be like a fair thing, because it was, the pack was quite young. You had Freddie Douglas, who I felt it took a while for him to get into the game because Freddie Douglas's specialty is jackling, but Scotland never really got to jackal Fiji, which is a shame. Because we love chatting about Freddie Douglas for Edinburgh, that whenever you come into the room, he's won a penalty because he's turned over the ball.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think when you're looking at those stats, it does feel. I think a lot of that came from the second half, especially that territory that you could feel the difference as soon as Schumann, Cummings, Dolby, and Sione came on. That was a
They all
completely
made a
different.
good impact, didn't they? Especially Sione.
Yeah. Um, and it's just crazy. Like how
237 tackles from Fiji is crazy.
yeah. And then just trying to think. George Horn unfortunately didn't have his best game either.
No, that was tough. I'm a big fan of his, but he didn't have a great game.
No. And again, I point this out in rugby around that there was that, when he was running in circles, there was a point where
Yeah.
he tried to snipe and he just I think the reason behind that was when I was watching it, I couldn't see Fergus Burke. So I don't know if it's he didn't have somebody to try and pass it to then boot it,
Mm.
which yeah, that's just from what I saw. I could be completely wrong, but yeah, it's a shame for George that I think he builds up so much goodwill trying to fight for the Scotland jersey, and then he does have an occasional game like this or the Italy one from 2 years ago that just doesn't go his way, and then I think it just puts him back when it's yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, I think decent result for Scotland, especially that last Jamie Dobie try was nuts. 9 out of 10 times that would have been a knock on.
Yeah. 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 A bit sad for Fiji, but anybody else got any takes on Scotland? I mean, like you said, Ethan, it was a very rotated lineup, and I think he took a bit of a risk. And Fiji definitely tried this
Yeah,
week, and it made a big difference. And particularly in that first half, there were a lot of moments where Fiji kept having defensive wins because in the first two games that Fiji have been played, you get into their 22 and you score. Both Wales and England did that. So, but
yeah,
Scotland, as you said, with the 22 entries, kept getting in there, and then Fiji would hold them out, and you go, ooh. And then Fiji would go down the other end and score, and you go, ooh. And then in the second half, it all fell apart for them. But yeah, I suppose they pulled it out of the fire in the end, Adam.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting Nations Championship couple of rounds for Scotland in the fact that they're well, like everyone in the Northern Hemisphere, well, most of us in the Northern Hemisphere with two wins out of this block. Traveling to Fiji all the way to Edinburgh, Fiji. Didn't know that place. Didn't know there was an Edinburgh in Fiji, to be honest with you. I didn't know, Ethan, that you could travel by train to
yeah,
Fiji as well. It's wild. It's almost like the one that I had last week. Anyway, but I think for Scotland, it's looking like a very interesting. It could be a very interesting roundup for them. When we look at the northern leg of it, they've but
Mhm.
New Zealand first, and then it's Australia, and then it's Japan. Ideally, they could beat Japan and Australia there. It depends on what type of New Zealand squad shows up in that round four, but they'd be rubbing their hands at this prospect, this nation's championship prospect, because especially table wise, because I think that they've probably got a nicer round setup than the rest of us Northern Hemisphere teams. Especially looking at that Australia game and that Japan game in Scotland. I don't know what you mean by Edinburgh being in Fiji anyway, but I feel like it's a much nicer roundup for them come November, and I feel like they're building pretty healthily, in that sense.
yeah. I feel the Scotland team has certainly you can see the difference from the Six Nations, let alone the autumn from last year. That I think there has been a lot of progress there, and they are looking a lot sharper. Still things to work on, especially I think from yesterday that, granted, it was heavily rotated, but at times it seems like the defense system was completely a bit off. I don't know if that's just those players not used to it yet, and then you've obviously got to tweak it for New Zealand first thing, which I'd rather have them second, for Scotland to try and get ready for it, kind of
Yeah,
warm
Scotland
up.
always need a game to get going. Well, I say that they went and pulverized Argentina, so maybe not.
Yeah.
Anyway, right. I think that brings us to the end of talking about the first two games. So before we move on, we're going to talk about South Africa, the Springboks next, against some other team. Can't think. It's just a time to remind you to subscribe to the Global Gain Line on YouTube. We have surpassed 1,750 subscribers. So the next stop is 2,000, and we desperately, desperately want to get there. If you do hit that subscribe button, you will be partaking in the most diverse rugby podcasting platform anywhere in the world. This is not only a Nations Cup special podcast that we do every single week, which is a spin-off of our URC show, but there is also a specialist, 2 specialists per week, Springbok podcast. There is a specialist French rugby podcast that I host. There is a specialist Irish podcast that Adam hosts. There is a specialist Scottish podcast that's not up yet, but will presumably be up later, that Ethan hosts. And there's probably a load of other stuff that I've forgotten as well. The Scrum of the Earth sometimes. So it's a bit of rugby from a bit of everywhere. And if that sounds like a bit of you, please consider subscribing. Mohammed, the Springboks won again, 11 wins in a row. What are them really unsatisfactory 43-0s?
Yeah, I think this is the best venue in Durban to actually have this type of game. Yes, we didn't put as many points on Wales as we might have wanted to. I would have thought, hopefully, because it was also Mandela Day, where everybody in South Africa either acknowledges and sort of remembers the contribution Nelson Mandela has done, not only for South Africa in abolishing the racist system that was apartheid, but also sort of his general effect on the world as a whole. But yeah, so the thing to do in Mandela Day is to do a minimum of like 67 minutes of volunteer work and or like something within 67, I think, around that number. So like donate 67 Rand to like charity and things like that. So it would have been nice if we had actually also they had sort of like a round of applause at the 67th minute of this game, which was also fantastic. So yeah, look, I'm obviously happy because we won another game and we used these last, if we look at things as a whole, not just this game, these last 3 games and the 4th game, if you count the Barbarians game, which was like 2 weeks before the first game in this Nations Championship series, we've rotated a lot. We've given a lot of players game time. We've used the sort of massive diaspora of players we have within URC franchises playing overseas, Japan, France, so etc. Although we don't have that many players playing in France as much. We've started 3 different fly-offs. Obviously, it's very encouraging for me to see
Or
Vusi
Quan Horn,
Moyo.
don't forget about Quan Horn.
Oh, Kwon On. So he started on the 4th game. So arguably, if you count the Barbadians game as well, we started 4 different fly-offs. 5 if you count the South African A team where Yakin Ahmed started. Yakin Ahmed, by the way, alongside all his cohorts in the South African under-20s junior Springboks game or Baby Box game, if you will. Now back-to-back world champions, world under-20 champions, having just defeated a very good France team last night. A game that was shifted. The start of the game was shifted slightly later so that the Springbok senior game could finish and then we could all watch the junior box game. So now, I don't know if you guys remember exactly a year ago, I had a background of the Baby Box lifting the trophy. I forgot to do that this time. But yeah, so with double champs. But back to Vusi Moyo. Excellent game. I've met this guy. Very good frame for a rugby player, especially at number. He's like almost like the perfect frame of like he's not too big. It's not like that Fouché guy that the Bulls tried to roll out a few years ago who couldn't run, but he's not too small either. Had a fantastic game. Got about 47 minutes of game time. Then was replaced by Mane Lebok. There were moments in the game where Vusi at fly off and Apelele Fassi were combining fantastic in Durban, where they both are contracted to the Sharks. So it hurts me dearly. I can understand Apelele Fassi is going for a whole year sabbatical to play in Japan next year, so he won't be available for us in the URC and the Challenge Cup because we're in the Challenge Cup, not the Champions Cup. Oh, so sad. So they were combining fantastic. So I was like, oh, I have to wait. I have to wait like more than a year to see this in the Sharks jersey. But anyway, hopefully Moya will sort of develop. Besides, we also have Sekatelo Siaya at fullback. So that was super encouraging. How we sort of Carlos, I said to somebody earlier today, the manner in which we laid the platform for success for the 4 debutants in this game.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yes, someone could say, yeah, like you can run out the tea lady, it's Wales, but it's still a competitive team. And on the point of Wales, though, yes, they didn't score any points. Yes, in no point at all, unlike the Scotland game, and even to a degree the England game, did I think we were going to lose this game. I thought Wales did certain things very well in terms of like, look, we're not going to win, but let's keep the score down. Let's do some clever things. There were some clever kicks from Blair Murray cutting across the field. There was Yuri Zamet saying, look, I spent a year in America, so now I'm also a dick, so I'm going to try and mess with Apalele Fassi. But Apalele Fassi, to his credit, when Yuri Zamet tried to mess with him the second time, he just brushed it off because like there needs to be maturity within the team. Although seeing Dewey Lake, when we were watching the build up to the second half, they put the camera of the camera in the Scottish dressing room, and there was a guy sitting on the floor with a towel over his head, looking incredibly depressed. So I messaged Hattie, and I was like, "Which player is that?" And she was like, I wasn't watching at that moment." And then when I sent her the picture, she was like, "Oh, it's Dewey Lake." So
I
it
had
didn't come
exactly
out.
the same thing. I
Yeah.
had someone sent me a still of that. So who's this player? And I was like, oh, that's the captain.
It doesn't sound great.
That's not good.
Yeah. So look, it was less points somehow. I mean, we put more points on you at the Principality at the end of last year. Somehow we put less points. And as we well spoke on this podcast, the crowd in Durban, a very good crowd, by the way. I don't know about the tickets. They like to party more than the rugby. So the rugby is the secondary to the gees, right? So they got what they wanted. Everybody seemed to be in really good up spirits. So yeah, thanks Hattie for joining the preview pod on Bit of an Animal, sponsored by Culture Lab Kombucha. Shout out to Culture Lab Kombucha. And yeah, we look forward to this tune in tomorrow where we cover tomorrow's a special episode. It's the 50th episode of Bit of an Animal. We're having the original panel back, the first original pod squad back. So Lisa B is coming out of retirement. So it's going to be myself, Thembi Kosi, Jean, and Lisa B. And we're covering all kinds of things. This game, our back-to-back under 20 victory, some Currie Cup Premier Division first round fixtures where the Sharks actually sent out a D team and somehow won in Mbombela. Yeah, so I encourage everybody to watch this. And yeah, we really enjoy this game. We've got a month break until we take on Argentina in Argentina. Hopefully by then they'll be over the fact that they lost the World Cup to Spain. And then we go move on to the greatest rivalry when New Zealand come to South Africa and get their ass handed to them.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I guess that leaves for me to talk about Wales now, does it? Well, let's see. Possession, no. Territory, no. Tries, no. Conversions, no. Goal kicking, no. Carries, no. Gain line, meters, no. Passes, no. Offloads, no. Clean breaks, no. Defenders beaten, no. Right, none of the attacking stats. Defensive stat. Aha! We missed more tackles than you. There you go. See, I knew there would be one there somewhere. Something that we did more than you at. Right, what else have we got? Aha! More territorial kicks than you. Yes, we did more of that. We kicked the ball away more than you did. What else? Scrums won. We actually won more scrums than you. That doesn't sound right. I feel like that's wrong. Because our scrum got absolutely pulverized. Breakdown. We had better maul success than you. And that's the end of the positives. So, yeah, in some ways, I think this was worse than the 73-0, honestly, because like the Springboks were definitely half as good. So they scored a lot less points, but they were a lot less good in this game. Like if you like roll it back to the team that played in Cardiff, it was much stronger than this one, with like Sasha and Andre Esterhazen and stuff like that. And I think when the likes of Libok and Gaza came on, they noticeably made the team better, in my opinion. From a Wales point of view, they're just nothing. And a few people have said to me like, "Oh, they worked hard," or the work rate and the heart that they showed and stuff. Like, those are non-negotiables. There's the things like you're representing your country. That's like bare minimum. Like, is it beyond reasonableness for me to expect a bit of X factor? You know, a bit of skill, a bit of talent, a bit of something, a bit of magic. You know, expect someone to do something unexpected. And it was just like we couldn't even do a ruck at times. And there was really, really nothing for me to get excited about from watching a Wales point of view. And I really think that the selection immediately was like alarm bells because the selection smacked of just giving everyone a run out. And all the people who hadn't played got a game. Well, not all of them, but most of them. And I was looking at that bench mainly, and I was thinking, where is that impact coming from? You know, who is coming off that bench and really changing the game? And the answer was Joe Hawkins a little bit, but then we ended up with like this worst of both worlds thing of having Joe Hawkins and Ben Thomas in the centres at the same time, which could never have been the plan. But that was always going to be a risk with the team that they selected because Joe Hawkins on the bench of your playmaking 12 who can cover 10. So unless they were just straight swapping him for Ben Thomas, which would have had minimal impact, or he's coming in a position which is not his best position. So it was kind of a no-win situation from that selection for me. But this team is built around, the whole selection is built around this double playmaker thing, this playmaking 12 to go with the 10. And yet we pick a 10 who doesn't pass. Dan Edwards doesn't pass. This is a real stat. He passed the ball twice in this game. He played a full 80 minutes and he made 2 passes. So we've got the double playmaker where the first playmaker doesn't pass. And then you've got the second playmaker who, okay, Joe Hawkins came on and did some stuff and it was okay. But then having him on at the same time with Ben Thomas, I don't get it. But then that selection then defines who you've got to pick at 13. You go, okay, we've got a ball carrier at 13. So which normally means we've got a natural 12 playing at 13. Whether that's Eddie James or whether that's Max Llewellyn, you know, it's debatable whether he's a 12. Johnny Williams in the past, you know, the big ball carrier plays at 13. But then we don't have any plan to get that ball carrier carrying the ball. Like they never touch the ball. They never get the ball. They never carry the ball. And it doesn't seem like we've had even a chat about how to make that happen. And then the back three I thought was okay. I thought that Blair Murray is probably the one player who's come out of this July with his case enhanced. He now probably looks safer in that team. Blair Murray now looks like he is first choice fullback again, which is good for him. The front row obviously got demolished, smashed, killed. And yeah, I'm not really taking any positives from this game at all. We've got nils. We've now played 160 minutes against South Africa and not scored a point. I didn't think that we'd win. I didn't even perhaps think that we'd keep South Africa to a low score. But I didn't think we'd get nilled either. So that was very disappointing. Adam, Ethan, any thoughts on this one?
It's a difficult one because I saw the result. I didn't watch the game, but I saw the result and I just thought of like, oh, these are like we're USC rivals, guys. There wasn't any sort of remnants of that there. Which you know, fine, rightly you said, Hugh. There's a lot of, you know, if you have a 10 that's only passing twice in a game. I think he had a similar game fairly recently as well, where he only passed like where he didn't even pass at all in the Six Nations, or he only had a couple of touches even. But yeah, it's one of those where it's quite a disappointing one because you would think in games going by when like I'm talking like historically, Wales v South Africa, it would have been quite close games traditionally, but I just found it a little bit of a fair play. South Africa, as we know, they're the best team in the world. Wales just never really showed up.
Yeah. I'm trying not to go on about it. Ethan?
I was just trying to find, because there's a quote in my head that came to mind when you're talking about the double playmaker, but it's not working. Where it's, like 2 times 0 still 0, and that who's the Wales attack coach? Because when I was
Matt
watching
Sherritt.
it, Matt Sherritt, it's kind of like Wales didn't really seem to play to score. It's kind of seemed like they tried to play to survive from when I was watching it.
Hmm.
That it wasn't like there was a killer instinct. It was more, let's try and move a bit forward. I mean, I don't really remember. There wasn't much highlight. That's part of the problem. There wasn't much to remember from anything positive from a Wales perspective. That a lot of it was just green one-way traffic.
I certainly don't remember anything positive. Like, and again, a few people have said to me, "Oh, you showed heart and stuff." I don't care about that anymore. And sometimes, for people who don't, sometimes I get messages of people who don't watch Welsh rugby, and they go, "Oh, you need some bigger ball carriers there." I'm like, what did we think of that? Why didn't we think of just getting some better ball carriers? No one in Wales has ever thought of that before. Like, yes, it's something not very good at. This is something that I've not seen mentioned, and it's not my cancelable take, but in these last two games against Argentina and South Africa, I've just been seeing Aaron Wainwright, who is been incredible for us. So I'm not slamming him at all, but in these last two games against Argentina and South Africa, I've just seen him getting stopped on the gain line, just stopped. No further shall you be going, and that's kind of crazy. Mohammed,
Mhm.
someone said to me earlier that Cobus Visa is better than Eben Etzebeth. Discuss.
Um, as much as unfortunately not. Cobus is very, very talented, very young. Also had an interesting career. Left South Africa early, went to go play for the SA Sharks in Sale, aka the Sale Sharks. Came back and has signed for the Bulls and played quite well. I believe he's originally from the Stormers setup. Obviously, it's also very interesting with Cobus Visa because his name is identical except for one letter from a guy who played the exact same, who was iconic for playing the exact same position he did. Other Cobus, historic Cobus Visa in the Springbok setup, also plays forelock. Cobus Visa is very good. Not quite at the Eben Etzebeth's level yet. I mean, we haven't seen Eben Etzebeth's prime. It's Eben Etzebeth in a while. So give Eben Etzebeth a chance to come back. I guess it's sort of like we see this a lot in MMA, recency bias. I will say
Mm.
though that with Eben Etzebeth having not really played at a super high level in a long time, gotten suspended against Wales in November of last year and played one game since. Obviously trying to blind Alex Mann, who was in the game, but seemed to be looking over his shoulder a lot during the game. I'm not sure why. Um, uh, so we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves. But if Eben comes back and he actually does play for the Sharks, who knows? Although I hear there's weird speculation that him and Damien Del Andy are about to sign for the Stormers. Seems unlikely. Maybe next season. Yeah, I think Eben has one season left for the Sharks. I would be fine if he left now, to be honest, because it's not like he's doing anything for us anyway. He's collecting a massive paycheck. But yeah, let's see if he comes back and then we can assess again. Would I like Corbus Visser from the Bulls to shine with the Sharks? Absolutely. So that obviously reflects that Corbus Visser. Weirdly, I've seen Corbus Visser play well this season for the Bulls, leading up to a URC final. Which they again shit the bed, but I've never seen him have this good of a
I
game.
know
I
these
mean,
last two games, I've never seen him play that well for
yeah,
the
and
Bulls
what's
ever.
weird is that it's almost like we learned from Scotland. Because I mean, people would have thought like, oh, the takeaways from Scotland is like, this is what teams are going to try and do to us, change the defense. Instead, we were doing what Scotland were doing last week of like, we're going to pass, but instead of using the lock as a dummy runner, we're actually going to throw it at him, and he's going to run like an inside center line where he's not going to run at the guy and try and kill him and then suck in other players. No, he's going to run in between them. And Corbus made like 2, 3 really good breaks. And obviously, it was weird in the first half where Corbus made the break, and who finished it? His younger brother, Jasper. So the Visa, yeah, look, another hot take. The Visa family is better than the Barrett family and the Whitelock family put together.
Oh dear. Oh my goodness. Gosh. Well, should we do it now? No, we'll talk about Italy first, because the way that this works, if people haven't figured it out already, with the URC pods, we talk about the URC nations, which means we're not talking about Argentina versus England. We're not talking about France versus Japan. We're not talking about, is that all of them? That's all of them. Um, But we are talking about Australia versus Italy. I said last week that I thought that rugby was going to be the loser from this game, and it turned out no, it was Italy. They were pretty bad. They were pretty bad. 57-10. Who takes 50 off Australia in this
Even
day and
in
age?
Australia.
Guys, am I just a pure hater? I don't think Australia were even good. Am I just a hater? I was watching Australia in that second half especially. I was like, yeah, they're not even good.
This was Joe Schmidt's last Australian game, and they said to him at the end of it, "Oh, are we in safe hands?" And he looked down the camera and said, "Yeah." That's all I have to say about this game. I'd like to retract any further comment before I get any type of lawsuit from Les Kiss. If we thought, Angus Bell's scoring was good, there's at least an Ulster player got on the scoreline there. But it was just, I think Italy's Nations Cup has been so.
It
I
couldn't
think,
have been worse, Adam. It couldn't have been any worse.
but have we had have we had this blown up vision of Italy being good? And we've just been like, sort of this year, especially, it's really blown up in our faces with the likes of Treviso and Zebra and Italy in general. Because what has happened? Because I swear a couple of years, well, this time a year ago, we'd be talking about how well Italy have been playing. And, I would have I think it was Ethan that mentioned, isn't it their last week? You mentioned, isn't it their first time since like 2016 or something daft like that that they've won against Italy? Like that's wild. Like yeah, it's not really a good representation of what the Northern Hemisphere could do. Um, but yeah, then I look at Italy's Northern Hemisphere run of games and I'm like, oh dear. There's a lot more improvement there needed.
Ethan, thoughts on this one?
I think it's a hard one to, because I put this in the chat as well. It's how do you gauge this? So Australia narrowly lost to France. No, sorry, no, narrowly lost to Ireland in a game they probably should have won. If it wasn't for a missed penalty or a misconversion. Fairly beaten by France, was it not by 20? Is that right?
Yeah, they were leading France at half time, and then France came out in the second half and just destroyed them.
And then completely curb stomp Italy. So it's kind of like looking at Australia is where are Australia? But then for Italy had that was technically their most successful Six Nations, is that right? Or one of their
no,
best.
it was better the year before. They had 2 wins and a draw one year. I think it might have been 2024.
Yeah.
And then so only 2 wins this one, but it's still good for Italy.
Yeah, that they beat us. They beat England, which again, quite a big result beating England. Even if, as much as we like to dog on England, for Italy at least, that's a huge result. And then came somewhat close to beating Ireland. That sure it wasn't like a 3-point or anything, but they had opportunities there, which you probably would have never said before, or at least in a very long time, that they wouldn't have had an opportunity that close to being Ireland. And then, I mean, yeah, they got curb stomped by France as well. But so I don't know how they've regressed so much in the space of a few months. That sure, we were never expecting them to beat New Zealand. Losing to Japan was probably the most.
I think we all kind of slept on how bad that result was, to be honest.
Mm.
To the manner of it as well. They were comfortably beaten by Japan.
Yeah, and it's not to discredit Japan. I think it's because I think perspective in Japan's kind of building at the moment. It's not like they're a settled squad or anything, whereas Italy is probably a settled team.
On that point, the commentator on ITV at one point said, "Oh, this Italy team's lacking cohesion because they made a load of changes." Half the team plays for Benetton. The other half of the team either used to play for Benetton or plays for Zebra. Like
who will play for Benetton?
Yeah, and the other half will play for Benetton. So it's this thing about they lack cohesion. No, like the halfbacks were brothers. The halfbacks were brothers. lacking cohesion. Like, no.
So, do you think it was just one tour too far for Italy that just pushed them a bit? Not that they had anything to do at the latter half of the URC season, but it's just I
It's
just can't think
embarrassing.
of a reason why.
It's embarrassing. Like, and the people have made it their persona online to like talk about this Italy team is really good and say how they weren't that bad against the All Blacks and stuff. It's like, look at the score lines. Look at what is happening here. Like Italy in this, what in this it's what is it called? Nations Championship. How many points have they scored in total? Hang on a minute. Let's check the website now. Where do you find the standings on the website? Where is it?
It's quite difficult. This is our call. This is my hot take. Call out to the website designers of the Nations Championship. Change the color of the website. It looks like a highlighter. And two, why is there too many buttons? I don't know where I'm going.
Can't find the standings. Where is it? I genuinely can't find the
'Cause
standings.
I know where they are on the table and how many points they actually have, but in terms of like points
how many
scored,
like points have Italy scored across their 3 games?
Oh, damn.
Okay,
I
so
found a table. I found a table.
Oh yeah.
Their
mm,
points difference is minus 94.
mm,
They don't, it doesn't show anything in terms of, hold
Maybe
on.
like
on
how
fans
much they
score.
scored,
Hang
how
on.
much they considered. What's interesting though is that Italy lost to Japan, but at the game in the first round of this Nation Championship, but the game was actually played in Tokyo, Japan. Having said that, I expected them either to have a closer game or win. Italy beat Scotland and England in the Six Nations, both at the Stadio Olimpico. So is it a case of like, look, they're obviously not top three because the top three is South Africa, well, New Zealand, South Africa, France, in whatever order. We can debate that, and then obviously then there's sort of the next tier of Ireland.
Oh my God, sorry, I've
Who
just
else?
found it. Italy
Yeah,
scored 37 points across three
in
games.
3 games. Oh crap.
That's not going to win
Um,
you one game in 2026, let alone three.
so are Italy like? They're still a developing team. They've
No,
never
no,
reached the
no, no. I'm
heights.
not having this develop. No, they're not
They've
developing anymore. No, not for me.
let me just say, let me just talk about. They've not reached the heights of Wales. So Wales are regressed and they're trying to go back up. Are Italy just only competitive in Europe and
They're only competitive in Italy.
more specifically against other European teams in Italy? That's just their ceiling right now because their system is not producing the type of talent and or results that we hope them to. They're like the plucky underdog, but under certain circumstances they could win. But in the Northern Hemisphere, sorry, if they travel south, they can't win at all. Are they going to even get any points against reasonable teams against a non-top team in Australia at the World Cup? Probably not. They're not making they're not even as good as Argentina. So their system is not set up for significant long-term success. They're just playing because they kind of like playing, and maybe they can pull a result off here and there
To be even,
in Italy. But outside of Italy, highly unlikely, and outside of the Northern Hemisphere, extremely unlikely, unless they play like Portugal in the World Cup, which I don't know the World Cup fixtures there. They might have
they've,
Portugal in their
Portugal are
group or
doing
something.
they're,
really well at the moment.
yeah,
Shots fired, Portugal.
Mohammed's, they're in your very easy group of use guys,
Yeah.
Georgia and Romania.
Wow. Georgia, I don't know. So
Romania are
this
playing
is,
really well at the moment.
yeah,
What
yeah. Hmm.
what did the Springboks do to get money for that pool, by the way?
Well,
Italy, Georgia,
we
this has not been spoken about. What's going on here,
so
guys?
so basically the first part of the World Cup, and this channel, by the way, it's going to blow up during the World Cup. It's basically just us, um, sort of like just rotating and things. As soon as we get to the knockout stage, it's
Yeah,
the same team like the
you're
whole
It's like a
not
time.
you're not
dartboard
gonna
like that, and he's like, "I'm playing fly half this week
yeah.
is
Sasha's not
Crumble."
playing.
Yeah, here we
Okay.
go.
Yeah,
Why not? Yeah.
Sasha's not playing that group stage. He's not.
Um. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, so
Oh,
if there's
Italy.
any Italian fans watching or anything, like, what do you want us to say?
Mike,
It,
come back on the pod and explain.
like, it shouldn't be this bad. Like, it's not even credible. Like, it wasn't even just like you got beat by the Well, obviously, you did get beat by the better team, but I don't think Australia played amazing. It was a really, it's been an awful July, and I don't, I don't get why. Because people keep going like, "Oh, we need to take Italy seriously. They're not pushovers anymore." You get this in the Six Nations, especially in the last couple of years. We've had it constantly of people like, "It's time to respect Italy. They're a proper competitive team." All right, if we respect Italy and they're a proper team, let's talk about them like that. In which case, we have to say that this July series is completely unacceptable.
Yeah.
And it was dross and it was terrible.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
what are they doing?
I think to
Yeah,
build on
but I
that,
think Adam made a good point though.
Sorry, Ethan
They
was
had a
talking
lot of
first.
time.
Ethan was talking first.
Oh, sorry, man.
Oops, sorry. That's right. I was going to say Australia didn't have to play well, and that's the worst thing.
Yeah.
Is that Australia kind of just cruised it over. That at no point when watching that did I feel that Australia felt threatened, that they actually had to lock in, which I think shows you how bad it was.
Yeah. They got a bit giddy at points. Sorry, Mohammed. Now go ahead.
Adam made a good point earlier about like I forget, but yeah, we make excuses for Italy, like saying, oh, Benetton, they're
It's
plucky, they're good, whatever, and then oh, they're falling apart, but maybe the Italian team will be competitive with that guy, and then they're not. So,
yeah.
um,
And is it
I
certain?
will say though they do have some good young players in their youth system. So do they have the system to actually bring these guys through and make success? They're recruiting somewhat smartly. Like they've got Franco Smith's son, who is a good fly off. So maybe that'll bring some sort of push towards them. And I will also say that having watched the Georgian team under 20 team play 3 times in 2 weeks, we should watch out for them as well, because if they are quite smart in terms of bringing their players through, they could also be a team to watch out for in a later
But
stage. Also, it's
I
quite funny is we were watching the Georgian team play, and then the players who didn't make the match 20 through were like sitting close to us and that type of thing. And then the one Georgian coach was like, Mohammed, Mohammed. I was like, what the fuck's going on? And he was talking to the guy in the team. And I was like, oh, okay, it's that guy.
imagine,
It's the 120 kilogram dude. I was
imagine,
like,
holy shit,
I'm
is that Muhammad from A Bit of an Animal? Oh my God.
even the Georgian team is recruiting players and that kind of thing. So, although to be fair, I do know somebody who played another Muslim guy who played in Georgia and then played club rugby, played for Borland, and now he's going to the third division in France to make more money than any of us has ever seen in our entire lives.
Fair play. But I do think with I like it's as you said, Hugh, I think when we give opinions of teams like Italy, and it's the same with when I say about Ireland is that we want them to have like they want to be seen as a certain standard. And if they're not at that certain standard, we would be like, why?
Mm.
What's actually happened? What's went wrong here for it not to work? And this July, it just completely has not worked at all. Um, and it's the likes of I think you when you mentioned cohesion, wasn't it? That did you put it on Blue Sky Hugh? That it was like your center partnership is Brex and Menicello. They have played a lot with each other.
It wasn't
Like
in
and
this
they
game. No, it wasn't
it
me who
wasn't
said
as
that, and it wasn't
it
this.
wasn't
But
no. I
it was
apologize.
Brexton and Idogwu who have been Benetton teammates.
Yeah, but it's one of those. It's like and also, but as well, like you've got like Menicello is a really good player, but he's not. He isn't firing, and it's like what's happening there as well. Like how can this team unlock him? And I think I've said this before as well. It's not exactly like Parise, where Parise was a forward and he can manage to grab games by this like by both shoulders because he's a forward and he can afford to do that. It's much more difficult to unlock an inside center slash 13. Like it's much more difficult to do that. But Ireland did it with O'Driscoll. It's really it's one of those that like you need to find a way to play around your strengths, and Menoncello is that big strength, and they
Mm.
haven't done it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, before we finish, because there's no predictions to do, I need to circle back and make sure I've ticked off everybody's hot take. Um, Adam, did you give yours? What was your hot take? What was your cancelable take on Ireland?
Oh, I think that we're like sixth in the world. I think, which isn't, to be fair, it isn't really that much of a hot take. I think it's more that we need to, um, I'd say, move along from the likes of Tag Furlong. I'd say that's another hot take that I do have. which I don't think is a big enough hot take to actually have. I think, yeah, just go through the last 3 weeks. I'm sure you'll find. I'm sure you'll find one.
Mohammed, what was your South Africa hot take? I'm trying not to make it about the 2007 Rugby World Cup.
Oh,
I love
I'm glad you got injured.
I'm
glad you got injured.
It was 19 years ago.
I remember. Obviously, the Visa family are much better than the Barrett and Whiteout family
It's supposed
put
to be
together.
against your own nation.
I can't not show patriotism on Mandela weekend. How could you?
Okay, Ethan, your first person to ever try to be cancelled in Scotland.
I can't really think. Well, like the thing that's come through my head at the moment is that the northeast of Scotland is pulling its weight in probably a bit more than some other places at the moment in terms of developing players. In that you have Gregor Brown, Seb Stephen, Aisha Sutcliffe, and Megan Highland, or Hindland, I should say. So that's 4 players, both from either Aberdeenshire or Aberdeen itself, that are the future of Scottish rugby, which is a bit shocking considering not many people. Well, actually, Jackson Rennie as well. I forgot about him, that he also played at Mackie, which I didn't know. I know about that. That weirdly, rugby is not popular in Aberdeenshire, and somehow we have 2 Scotland or 4 Scotland caps technically, and then 1 under-20s prospect who's also with Glasgow Warriors. So yeah, and there's also got to shout out Ollie Kelly as well, for Glasgow Warriors as well, who's also from Stonehaven. So yeah,
There
not
you
sure
go.
how hot a take that is, but
We'll find
it's
out. We'll find
Actually,
out in the comments down below. And
My hot take on Scottish rugby is that Johannesburg is carrying
yeah.
Scottish. No, Jane. Sorry. It was an open net. Sorry, Ethan.
Yeah.
You mentioned that. I was like, there's something here. There's something here that I can do right now.
The big smoke.
Sure. Johannesburg has been better at producing Scotland players than Cape Town. Discuss.
I like how Policeman Ben was like, when I joked about Calstay, Policeman Ben was like, but his mom's Scottish, so he's not naturalized.
My hot take on Wales is that it isn't Thomas Williams' fault. I think this is copium from a certain fan base who are desperate to blame anybody other than their own players. And has Thomas Williams been incredible? No. Is he the problem with Wales? No. No, he's not. Check the stats. At least he's touching the ball and doing something. He's not perfect, but the gap between him and the other scrum halves is still vast. And the problem is that our arguably best player is touching the ball too much. Like I said, is he in incredible form? No, but who is in incredible form? Why other players have problems that need to be spoken about before Thomas Williams, in my opinion. Anyway, that brings us to the end of the show. There's no predictions because there's no more rugby. So that's us, lads. That's it. It's done. It's finished until September.
Wild to think about the season that we've had and all the fun and interesting things that have happened. It's mental.
Yeah, you guys are going on holiday. We're getting 1 episode, bit of a break, and then we're going straight to Argentina into so enjoy your time off. But producerly, it's like, I'm gonna have to edit another South African podcast.
The rugby never stops in South Africa.
Yeah, we'll just keep going. In between, we've got Curry Cup and all kinds of stuff. So
yeah. So we'll be back for the URC, and so for the last time of the 2025-2026 season, it just leaves me to say thank you to Irish Adam, Scottish Ethan, and South African Mohammed.
Vamos España.
Thank you.
I, for the purposes of the last however many months, have been Welsh Hugh. Enjoy your rugby, and I hope that everybody's team wins. Bye.
What if your home lowered your bills, charged your car, and help protect the planet without lifting a finger. Every City Ventures home is built with solar, smart thermostats, EV charging readiness, and Energy Star appliances all included standard. It's eco-friendly living without the compromise. Intelligent, integrated, included. Discover California's leader in sustainable new home construction at cityventures.com. That's cityventures.com.
Looking for a home that keeps you connected to Silicon Valley without the usual barriers to entry? The Gates in Morgan Hill by City Ventures is a walkable neighborhood near downtown restaurants, outdoor trails, and an easy commute to the Bay Area. It's a small town setting with access to major career hubs. Every home is all electric with buyer-owned solar included. With limited availability, now's the time to take a closer look. Discover your new home at cityventures.com. That's cityventures.com.